Okay,
Z.
we are live. Z and Z. Americans say Z, we go Z. Well, hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good everything, good beautiful day to you, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to another wonderful episode here with me on Aquarius Rising Africa. And I'm so happy to have with me again today the beautiful ANDI Bond for part 2 of our interview. I think we did that on Sunday, which was really amazing. For those of you who may have missed the first episode, I really want to invite you to watch it. It's from Sunday on Aquarius Rising Africa. ANDI is a SRA survivor, overcomer with the Cherokee bloodline. And we spoke a lot about her being taken into the system as a child as well. The military testing stuff that she was involved in, was forced into, let's call it participating in, if that's the word. Today, we're going to be talking further with her on stuff, the standardized testing within this whole crazy system. Like how do they get their claws into us, as people, from children, from the moment we're born, we have blood tests taken. That's how they get to understand what bloodlines they want. And we know by now they're going to take exactly what they want, and they'll do exactly what they want because they don't have a shortage of money. We're talking about how they infiltrate the AA clinics, like maybe even the Alcoholic Anonymous, maybe even narcotics. There's a whole lot of these places where people healing from addictions will gather. And the question is what really goes on there? Is there some nefarious activity that goes on there? We know they target mostly broken families, where there's vulnerable spots and kids are traumatized or unhappy in any way. And basically through, we were talking about doctors, therapists, maybe, we're looking at single moms, stuff like that. So I'm not going to natter on anymore, ANDI. Welcome. Thank you so much for returning to chat with me. Really great to have you back. Wonderful. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Good morning or good afternoon there in Africa. It's morning here. I'm honored to be back and very, I think that the topic that we're touching on today, as far as the standardized testing, is a really important piece of the puzzle that I've wanted to have more light shed on or more awareness of for people. So I'm really glad that we're going to be going into it. I would say, as far as the standardized testing goes, one of the ways that I determined how important that of a role that it plays in many facets of society, including public schools, definitely therapists use it a lot. Treatment centers for alcoholism and addiction use it a lot, as well as I would imagine the military. One of the ways that I was targeted for the programs, for the government programs and for SRA, was through standardized testing in elementary school.
I just want to clarify the standardized testing. Are you talking about these IQ tests and things that we are given at school? Is that what you're referring to exactly? So I remember that they'll come and they'll give you this whole IQ test thing, and you got to fill in these forms that takes forever and a day. So they're really measuring our intelligence at school and seeing who are the gifted kids, right? Maybe some of those that may have slipped through the cracks. Am I right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's based on the results of those tests that show which program a child's going to be used for, whether across the whole spectrum, or which part of the system that child will be inserted into in society, or the potential gifts of that child or that person, or that, what just came to my mind, that veteran, or which part of the military perhaps that person will be used. And the tests are exactly the IQ tests that you remember taking, where they're testing to see, I think, visual or the ability to identify patterns in space. If you would put the cubes into a certain way, and then different mathematical abilities to be able to see numbers or sequences of numbers or patterns in numbers, or even the mathematical abilities, perhaps the artistic abilities. Those are all very easily determined by those tests, personality tests, IQ tests, even some of the physical tests of like putting building blocks together and things like that, or the Rubik's Cube. Those all determine very, certain things that a child would be used for, where if they score high, there's a way to determine if there are even spiritual abilities or natural psychic abilities, as you would say, psychic, but really they're gifts from God, or intuitive abilities to see or utilize beyond our five senses. And so it's one of the tools that is used on a wide scale for many different purposes, in from a young age, or even in high school, middle school. What's coming to my mind is when you go, so I grew up in Colorado, and there were, Columbine happened. There were all these kids. And when you would go and look and do research, for example, the kid in Denver that that attacked the whole theater of people, I can't even remember now, at the Batman premiere, he was a psychology student at the University of Colorado. There's a campus there in Denver called the Anschutz, ANSCHUZ, or Anschutz, which interesting name. Yeah. So, was that kid targeted in high school? Was that kid part of some of these gifted and talented programs? And there are different programs, even some for the spiritually gifted, and then some for maybe the more mathematically or scientifically gifted. There are very many different programs, and that all throughout public school. They're almost like feeder or their feeder finder program. Their finder. They're looking for specific things to be utilized. And
so, if you don't mind, sorry, I just want to chime in there. I find this interesting because, as you say, I mean, these would be, we understand the whole Rothschild empire started the schooling and the university systems and what have you to basically train people to be their soldiers and to do whatever, to meet whatever requirements they had. So of course, now what they would be doing is going into the schools with these so-called psychometric tests or whatever they are to evaluate where the child belongs and what have you. So I'm thinking that would be a main reason for that would be to, as I was saying early on, see which kids have maybe filtered through the system, right, from what they haven't really caught in there. My question then is that, do they then approach these kids? Let's say they found this genius that can potentially send rockets to Mars on a broomstick, right? So they now, what do? Do they then approach the parents maybe? Do they do it aggressively? How do they get this kid into the system? Let's say the kid is 10 or 12 and is already in quite well entrenched in a home, family life, etc. I'd just be interested to know if you have any information on that. What do they then do? How do they get the kid in?
I have some insight through personal experience. And this is one of the big pieces of the puzzle that I really wanted to bring out, especially when I found out that my primary handler, who at the time was an elementary school music teacher, he now is very highly involved with the statewide standardized testing. And when I went to go follow up on where he was, what he was doing, he and his wife are very involved now with standardized testing in the state of Colorado. And so I know it's a very important piece. But one of the things, so there are all of these programs where the gifted kids, so speaking from experience, I basically went through a lot of these programs in public school, and they were looking for, so for example, I was always, in the all-state choir, or my vocal musical abilities. I just had natural musical talent from a young age. And so it's like, I was put through choir, and then outside of choir, there's, for the really, you want to kind of take it a step further, then you would audition for all state choir. And then it's like the top 500 kids in the state of Colorado would come together and meet. And now when I'm looking back at it, was a very Masonic concert symbolically. So I don't know, or is that one of the ways they're going to go to the all state and pick out of the, the cream of the crop, musically talented in choir and in band, orchestra, things like that, or in theater. There's all of the competitions, and then I was also involved in it. At that point, it was called DECA, or it's called Future Business Leaders of America, where we would go on the weekends and, compete. They would give us certain business scenarios, and we would have partners that, we would present what our idea would be. And in that, I ended up qualifying for state, and then qualifying for nationals, the national competition. And again, that was like 5 or 6 of the highest scoring kids in our school were all brought to Anaheim, California. So now that I'm tracing back all of these different programs, and I was always in the, National Honor Society, that's another one that I suspect, because part of the National Honor Society was, there was always this baccalaureate sort of baccalaureate. How do I explain? It's like all the seniors involved in the National Honor Society did this weird concert that, now that I look back, is very Masonic in nature, that they would have, certain vocalists perform, and then everyone wears their black robes, and they receive whatever their yellow cord around the neck. And that, I believe, has Masonic ties as well, symbolic. So then it's an indicator for, for college headhunters, this one, look at this one. This is one that's, an up and comer or whatever. And then they're guided into certain universities, certain jobs, certain positions. I was guided and recruited by colleges across the country, and I ended up staying in state, but I was in the top number 3 aerospace engineering program in the country based on my test scores. And now I understand that at the university I was being targeted and used for experiments connected with physics and things like that. So it just carries on. And
when you say Sorry, Andy, when you say you were targeted for experiments at the university connected to physics, can you expand on that a little bit, please? What do you mean by that?
The way that I figured out that something this is what's really interesting about piecing all of these things together, is the way that I know that something, it's like that something happened. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was some sort of program in the university through the aerospace engineering school or the physics department of the school. I was in, certain sort of advanced physics classes. And there was one semester in particular when I was studying black holes that for some reason I got so completely depressed, and so I could not function during the daytime. I was sleeping like all day, and then I couldn't explain. It was very weird. I could not perform in my other classes. I had to drop out of a couple of other classes, and I was having severe pain on a regular basis, like weird, just really severe chronic pain. And but none of it, I couldn't tie it to end. There was no like obvious reason for it at all. And my dad was the one that became really concerned. And I ended up, I was going to take the next semester off. I took a semester off because it was just such a dramatic change from anything that I had ever experienced. And during that semester off is when my dad passed away. But I have weird missing time. Like I have very specific memories of the class of going into, this physics department class, and then it would just like go blank. So I don't know exactly what happened. And then I do have memories. And then also I was recruited for, they do all these, they recruit students to do these, they'll call it like an experiment through the psychology department. And they'll come to all the dorms. And one of the ways also that they would recruit is they would do those hypnosis courses, like they bring in a hypnotist at the college dorm, and the hypnotist would put on whatever their thing is. But really, I could see that they were looking for the kids that are more prone to hypnosis or are more easily hypnotized. And then those are the ones that they would approach to, come, we're doing this like thing in the psychology department. So those are all different ways that I think that they work and find people for whatever the purpose. I don't know. For the black holes that semester, that's just really bizarre. I went back and I looked at my transcripts, and I always scored off the charts in all of the, physics for engineers, chemistry for engineers, calculus, blah, 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 blah. And I scored well in that course as well. But there's an entire semester that just doesn't make sense to me. And there's like all this missing time / I know that I was at class, but I would end up just with these weird symptoms and not it. So all of that adds up to me that these programs continue not just in elementary school, but some way, I don't know if the system says, this survivor or this person that's part of the programs from a young age, we want this one to go into Hollywood. And that's what the all-state choir stuff would be for. We want this one to go into science and technology. So we're going to like subtly push to go into that sector, whether it's medicine, engineering, any of those things. And for me, now that I look back, I've been constantly just rebelling against it. You know, I started out after school, I studied I worked for a stock market data vendor where I was a data analyst and looking at the patterns in the market. And I rebelled against that. I mean, I did really well and whatever, but after a year or two sitting in a cubicle, I was so miserable. I ended up going back and, you know, working as a ski instructor and raft guide instead, because I just had no desire to be part of the Western system. So I think that there's different ways that, you know, it's the same people, really, it's the same underlying system, but that's disguised in different ways. And I could see them recruiting for military soldiers based on if they want to use them as like boots on the ground, or if they want to use, or if the soldier has natural psychic spiritual abilities, then they're going to probably pull that person into a certain compartmentalized piece of the military. And so the standardized testing, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really I find that it's so prying on the very core of our privacy. That's the way I see that, because, you know, we're told to answer honestly, we're told to answer truthfully, and, you know, and I remember those tests, it was never a right or a wrong, but it was really about where you should study, or, you know, what best career choices are for you. Exactly, you know, the yarns that we are spun with that. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, there's something so much more nefarious at play there. It's quite crazy, isn't it? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is. Sorry, carry on, Andy.
Oh, no, I was just thinking, if you think of the role that therapists play using those tests, they also, you know, when we go back, who are the kids that are targeted or more easily kept under the radar would be ones that come from broken families, or ones that have trauma in the family. And you can see all that from the psychological test as well, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It would absolutely make perfect sense. Again, you know, when you take your child, once they've had experienced a death or something traumatic, whatever it may be, yes, they get tested. And then, you know, that information is beyond a blink completely entrusted with the therapist. So it's such a betrayal, actually, when we realize what's going on there, is that very often that's how our kids get nabbed, and that's how our kids get corrupted. I don't think they would necessarily take them away from you, depending on the age maybe, but they would coax them, they would groom them, right? They would take them into places and coach them and give them extra lessons. And, you know, I would imagine that's how it would work until that child is ripe for the picking.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I was groomed by the music teacher. I was told how special I was, and that I was chosen for something, and I was always chosen for the lead roles. And, you know, and then, yeah, like, oh, after school, we got to work on the solo for the musical coming up, or whatever, the performance for the school play. And so, you know, for me, it was that, but I would assume that there are handlers very well placed within all the various departments, whether it's the, you know, science and math, or theater, or, you know, where they're looking for the brightest and the most talented to groom in a certain way, hopefully break their spirit enough that they join their, you know, system, and give up at some point so that they can be utilized as a tool for whatever purposes.
Absolutely. Wow. Very good to be aware of these things. So, you know, for those of us with kids doing these tests, just be aware. You know, I'm not quite sure what the solution for that is right now. But again, I always maintain, and I think this goes across the board, is that the more of us who wake up, the more of us who become aware, the more of us who actually stand up and say, no, I don't think this is kosher for X, Y, and Z reasons, then, you know, this is how we break the system down. Not by warring and fighting and shooting through walls and stuff like that. Really just saying no. Just say no. And form your own, you know, communities. Form your own organizations. Form your own stuff within your community with like-minded people. I'm finding more and more people are doing that, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, we go as far as planting foods and stuff like that, you know. Not just that, it really is with any form of business, any form of anything. I just think we have to be a lot more vigilant now. We've given our power away to these people for decades and decades. Politicians, religious leaders, doctors, healers, dentists, teachers, government organizations, nurses, matrons in hostels, caregivers.
And the unfortunate thing is, like you were saying, that it does feel like such a betrayal, because at this point in time, are you still there? You're frozen.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. At this point in time, it seems as though everything is so infiltrated that the places that you go to seek help, and I had that experience directly through the Western medical system. I kept finding surgery after surgery after tumor, and nothing worked. There was nothing that they just kept taking more from me, you know. And even when I went to go get help for trauma and PTSD, or, you know, I ran into a facility that was taken down by the FBI a month after I left because they were running drugs through there. It's like everywhere you go that says they're there to help, they're not. It seems to be just the opposite. You go to a doctor to find healing, and you know, a lot of times you end up getting sicker, or just band-aiding the symptom and not getting to the root cause of it. It unfortunately, things are so upside down that thank God I had some incredible advocates, some incredible women that stood behind me, not just women and men, every step of the way. That's the thing that I have experienced, is that every single thing that's intended for evil, God, the creator of this whole cosmic universe, he loves the boomerang. I promise, I've seen that so many times, to even when I was in dangerous situations or things like that, God always has an ability to go into the darkest darkness and bring light. And so I never lose hope. However, at this point in time, it seems it's very infiltrated, and people they're just more naive. They're more naive to, oh no, that couldn't be that. And so they sort of keep the head in the sand like an ostrich and just look the other way, don't want to rock the boat, you know. But this incredible therapist that I worked with, I'm going to keep referring, she's exactly like the Oracle. She really is like the Oracle in the Matrix. But she said, no, Andy, the thing is that she said, if you find a problem, you speak up and you be loud. Why? Because most people, they see the problem, but because there's so much pressure to not rock the boat, they don't want to say anything. And so you be loud. And
I agree.
You know,
Speak up and speak. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's so true. You know, it takes one or two trailblazers, it takes one or two good people to shake things up around them and get the attention of, because I don't believe everyone is bad. Really, I don't. But, you know, shake shake things up a bit, get the attention of those that are being a little bit dozy around them and not seeing what's going on, and say, you know, and just saying, we've got to look out for X, Y, and Z. This is what's going on. Did you notice that? Can you see that? am I wrong about this? What do you think? What's your opinion? Am I overreacting? Whatever. But it's to get people talking. And, you know, right now, it's most people avoid these topics because I can't tell you how many people have said to me over the past years, I'm too sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yes. Mm-hmm. I've heard that one before too. And the thing
absolutely.
is, that it's such an excuse to keep the head in the sand. The thing is that through experience and through walking this walk in faith, my answer is, well, I don't know. I challenge that because in my experience, the God that I work with, the God that walks by and supports me and holds me through everything can bring light into the darkest depths. So if for some reason, I don't know, why are you so afraid? You know, why are you so afraid? The love and grace of the light is so much more powerful than any darkness. So, you know, step up, buttercup. Come on, let's go.
I love it. Exactly. Buckle up, buttercup.
Yeah.
So another thing that we wanted to chat about was the infiltration at the places like maybe AA, NA. I don't know what others there are. I'm sure there must be a lot of other organizations where people want to go to heal from addictions. I mean, I've got my own opinion on addictions, and I know it's not always very popular with people, but I would love to hear your story on that. Just how it gets in. Again, you're dealing with so many vulnerable people who are desperate to get their lives back on track and desperate to have this alcoholic claw no longer have a hold on them, you know, whatever it is. So it's very interesting. I would love to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, okay. I have some mixed feelings about all of that. Number one, I think that alcoholism and addiction are really an indicator of trauma. You know, my grandmother died with 22 years of sobriety, bless her heart. And my mom now has over 20, I don't know, she's got almost 30 years of sobriety. And so, you know, from a young age, I was kind of around AA meetings and stuff, supporting my mom and supporting my grandma. And then, you know, later in my 20s, I had 2 brain surgeries and brain tumors. And so I was addicted to painkillers for a period of time, and I had to get myself off of that. And so I went through the experience of going to a treatment center in my 20s. And, you know, and then so I kind of saw from the inside how the whole thing operates. But when I look back, I realized the thing is, there's a lot of beautiful things that happen in those programs, you know, of AA, NA, CA, there's all sorts of A's. And I've seen incredible miracles, and the miracles that I've seen are because people come together and love each other, you know, that it's love and support, that people love each other until they can love themselves. And also, I figured out, because I would just watch and observe, you know, what went down. And I've been to so many different parts of the country and met a lot of people involved in those programs and things like that. You know, I did see that not everyone has pure motives to be there. You know, as someone seeking help, you know, people are very vulnerable, and then there's a lot of love that's shown, and there's a lot of emphasis on God, you know, going to God rather than going to your own ego. And so there's a lot of beautiful internal work that happens, that I've seen happen. And people in that state tend to be kind of naive or maybe trusting of certain people that maybe might not be the best people to trust. But I noticed that those are programs where a lot of personal information is shared. And that when I connected some of the pieces back to Beaver Creek, Colorado, where my mom used to go to meetings, she would be in there, and let's just say there were some very prominent people that would show up to AA meetings. And some of these people, I later learned, were involved in the rituals that they were involved in SRA. They were Masons, or, whatever, I guess you can't for sure know, but they were involved in some bad stuff. And so it made me realize that predatory people can go and utilize that. And so I guess it's just another warning. It doesn't mean shut your heart off or anything like that, but just, to have the realization. I've noticed that most good people, they can't see the evil right in front of them because their mind doesn't work that way. They would never think that. But I learned to have some more kind of street smarts in a way to it's okay to question. It's okay to challenge. It's okay. You're not being mean. If you have a gut feeling about something, maybe it's an urge from divine, from spirit, like just watch out for that person, because definitely it would make sense that some nefarious group could easily go in and pose as someone that's trying to get help. And through the stories shared, they're going to see where's the single mom. Those kids would be a lot easier to target than, all of it. So it's like, it's sort of bittersweet, but all I'm saying is I encourage people to not just assume that everyone has pure motives all the time. That was a hard lesson for me because I didn't ever want to see, I just wanted to believe everybody is good at their heart. But the fact of the matter is there are souls that have chosen with their free will on this planet at this time to fully devote themselves to very dark things. And, I think God honors that choice, obviously, in one way or another, but I'm not on that team. It is very clear. It's kind of like, which side do you play for at this moment in history? And you got to choose. And keeping your head in the sand like an ostrich is like, it's not doing anything. It's not, it's like I saw a meme this morning that had Jesus that was saying like, yes, I'm very much about love and light, and I'm not afraid to flip over the tables of those that are harming others. That's not being mean. That's not being judgmental. That is speaking truth as it is. And the only way that this darkness is going to be uncovered is to shine light on it, which means you have to have the courage to walk with God in grace and love without fear and look at the darkness. Just look at it, expose it. The judgment, the consequences, those are up to God. But it doesn't mean you don't speak the dark, ugly truths because they are upsetting or whatever. No. The light and love and grace of God, I don't care. Put one spark of divinity in a room full of darkness and it disperses.
Absolutely.
Feel it,
Absolutely. I highly, 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 highly agree with you there. And that's what it is, because at the end of the day, Andy, it all boils down to us practicing discernment. The more I've walked these past 2 years, the more I realize, and I've said this so many times, I'm sure the viewers are sick of hearing it by now, but no one is saving us. No one is coming to save us. This is our time. This is our time to arise. It is our arising, us arising together in a unified way after prayer, meditation, unifying hands, working together to create a better world. We've been ignorant and disconnected for a very long time. I'm not saying it's our fault that everything has gone wrong. I'm not saying that, but we've all been partially responsible. If you are on this earth right now, you are partially responsible for what is going on. Is it your fault? No. There's a difference. I want to just make that clear. But let's all take responsibility. Every child that is being sacrificed, that is being tortured, that is being raped, every man, every woman, every animal, every bit of pain that is inflicted on another and that gets sent out through that pain frequency into the universe is food for the dark forces. Literally, they munch on that. That is why they create so much of that. It's what makes them fat. So we have to do what we can to minimize that and to bring in light by being joyful, by working together, by creating amazing spaces for things to change and things to happen, by finding the joy, feeling the joy rather, of being part of something that is so great at this time that we all have an opportunity to be part of. And, you know, that's what it's about. No judging and criticizing and beating each other down and survivors turning on each other and all of that nonsense. There's a lot of that going on there right now. That is what feeds the dark forces. Don't engage in that. I think so many people unknowingly get involved in fighting and shouting and screaming, and without realizing by doing that, you really are feeding Satan, if you will. Be loving, be kind, be gentle. If you don't like it, then step back and reevaluate, and don't follow the person. Don't watch their stuff, whatever. If you don't want to, follow what works for you. Pray, meditate, fast, ask for God's guidance. Surround yourself with people that you trust. Form form communities, you know. This is how we're going to whittle out the weeds. Really, this is how we build stronger communities. We have to start somewhere. We can't just say the world is such a mess and they've done this, they've done that, they've done. Yes, we're exposing what they've done. Now, who's going to fix it? Certainly not them. It's up to us to change it. So, you know, I think, and especially looking, as you say, looking in at our schools, at our universities, at the places where people are healing from addictions, you know. Single moms have always been under siege. We go back to the Tartaria stuff. Single moms and have always been targeted, and their babies have always been taken away for whatever reason, or a large part of them. Orphans, these breeder programs, you know. So we need to change that. It really is time. So it's been an amazing conversation around this. It's good to shed light on these things, Andy. So thank you for such a important topic that you brought up here today. Yeah.
Thank you. It's the thing is, I really am passionate about starting to bring awareness to how they get away with it, because it's happening and it's happening right under people's noses, right under their noses. And if you can start to identify the patterns, these people are not creative. They do the same thing over and over. Once you see the pattern, like it's like they have a certain formula. They're like, do this and then this. And then once you see it very clearly, you can call it out. And you know, truth has a certain resonance to it that you cannot hide. And so part of is just exposing the darkness brings the light to it. And that's a big piece of the puzzle. Once you see it, they can't get away with it anymore. It's like, no, I'm on to you. You know, and I encourage people to ask questions. If you're going to put your kids in some sort of gifted, talented program that sounds like it's such an honor because your kid's such a high performer, you know, ask some questions. And if people are, you know, that's the thing that I learned is it's okay to challenge. If somebody is who they say they are and they don't they will step up to the challenge and they'll provide the data, they'll provide the facts. If when you challenge, you either get attacked or it gets flipped back around on you, that's one of the first easiest ways to determine based on the response. You know,
Yeah.
if someone has nothing to hide, they will be very transparent. If someone, why are you asking questions? Blah, blah, blah. If they do that weird thing where they turn it right back on you, that to me is a red flag. And so if you start seeing a bunch of red flags, you know, the saying that where there's smoke, there's fire. It's kind of people, you start to 2 + 2 is 4. It's not 5. Just because someone feels like 2 + 2 is 5, it's not 5, you know?
Absolutely, it's not.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've just seen a question here from one of the viewers is asking if this happens in private schools as well. I'm going to categorically state yes. I think there's a lot of grooming that happens within the schooling systems, most definitely. What is your opinion on that?
I mean, I would imagine so. I can't speak to it out of personal experience. I try to speak out of personal experience as much as possible, but you know, I saw it happen very likely with my mom and her brothers and sisters in Catholic school. So
yeah.
I suspect yes.
Honestly, I think really right now, you know, if people are asking what to do, how do we change it? You know, the system has been so entrenched for such a long time, not just in one part of the world, but throughout the world in whatever way, you know, they've entrenched their ideals into that. So we, you know, again, it's really just about being aware, not wanting to go out and now break the whole thing down and create anarchy, but just be aware. Go, okay, I see, I understand, I'm seeing a pattern, I'm seeing it here, I'm seeing it there. Okay, cool, we've been duped. Okay, so how do we undupe ourselves? Let's speak family, friends, whatever, you know. How do we homeschool our children? You know, what do we want for them? How do we educate them? And let's find a good homeschooling program. Let's start looking at ways that we can enrich their spiritual awareness, their spiritual activities, what they do. Let's go to nature. Let's understand how it is. There are amazing people out there who are teaching awesome connections with our ancient ways in modern times. I know, Andy, you and I have been speaking about that, you know, and very excited at this point just to let our viewers know that you and I will be doing stuff in the future as well on more of the Eastern teachings, but that's going to be on the Solutions channel, where we look at different modalities of healing and participating and connecting, you know. I mean, I don't even like to call it religion, faith, because I don't like those words. They're also labeled, you know, but just different ways of experiencing life and going back to the ancient ways before the corruption took over, reconnecting back to those ancient truths and navigating your way with those as fuel in a modern society. I'm so excited for that. I just wish I lived forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, I look forward to that as well. And I think society is hungry for it, you know. And, absolutely, you know, the ancient, beautiful, sacred ways that I learned and that I was blessed to come to be taught by incredible teachers are harmonious with nature. And they're not the fast, quick, easy way. It's kind of going back to chop wood, you know, chop wood and carry water. But each part of that, like growing your own food and learning that how to harmonize with nature versus this Western sort of approach of trying to overpower or control, you know, it's coming back into alignment with what I think is, you know, the ways that God designed it. You know, how do we be in harmony with the animals and the plants and the water and the air of this planet in a way that sustains and encourages and creates love and connection versus tearing down. And
you know, I think with the new kids coming in now as well, this is such a beautiful divine time for them to help us to rebuild, remind us of our ancient truths, things that we've obviously forgotten, disconnected from. So I look forward to that.
I do too.
But yeah. So I want to say, Andy, thank you so much for joining me again today. I've loved listening to you and connecting with you and hearing your stories, and lots of future stuff that I'm looking forward to and really excited about. So I want to just say to our viewers, watch the space. We'll be letting you know in the next few days when Andy's going to be joining us again with some other amazing topics and territories we're going to be exploring. So yeah, enjoy. Is there anything else you want to just say before closing, Andy, just in closing?
Not for today, just maybe my message for today is don't be afraid to use your voice. Don't, yeah, I really learned that. I really did. I was encouraged to speak up, Andy. Just say something like, wait a minute, even if it's a doctor. I learned how to advocate. It was really important for me to become my own advocate and to learn, like, it's my body. This is my choice. I don't care how many degrees you have behind your name. I get to ask questions. If I disagree with, your proposed method of treatment or some medication, I get to say no. I don't care that you're a doctor. No, it's your job to advise. You have no power over me. And so many people, they will stand in that place because they have a PhD or a doctor, and they've been completely groomed by this whole way of just throwing drugs or whatever this or whatever that. And so I really had to learn that it was okay to speak up. It's okay to say no. If it doesn't work for me, I have every right to say no, seeking another opinion. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's your responsibility to seek another opinion. If someone is going to be making literally life-changing decisions or life-threatening decisions or enhancing decisions around your body and your well-being in any way, you have to trust your intuition to know whether that's feeling right for you or not, even though you might be scared and go, oh my goodness, I've got to go for that operation. But let me sit with this. Let me pray about it. Let me meditate on this. Is this right? Is God guiding me in another direction? And you won't know that unless you sit still and pray and meditate. But if you're going to run around in a flat panic from one doctor to the next and receive, at the end of the day, 8 different opinions, confusing you even more, that's not good. This is what I say. Yes, there are amazing people out there to help you. And there are as many good ones as what there are dodgy ones, right? So it's up to you to find the good ones and how you're going to do that, because it's not written in neon across the forehead. When you are in tune with God's guiding light, you will recognize if they are in tune with God's guiding light. Your light, and that's what the whole word, what the term namaste means. Namaste really means, in Sanskrit, the light in me honors the light in you. The God in me honors God in you. We recognize we are both created from God. So when my light shines and I'm looking for a doctor, and Andy, you're a doctor, and suddenly my friend refers me to you, or I meet you having a dinner party with someone or whatever, and I go, wow, I'm looking for a doctor. And you go, well, that's what I go. That's why I had to come to this party tonight, because I had to meet you. So please, can I make an appointment to see you? We immediately recognize through kinship. And it's something, a divine spark that sparks between us that gives us the understanding that we are on the right track. But, I went to a spiritual teacher many years ago in Johannesburg, and this old lady said to me, she said, if it's meant for you, the doors will open. If it's not meant for you, God will close those doors. And I've never, ever forgotten that. So don't tantrum and rage if the doors are closed and if you're not getting what you think you want. Step back. I've had so many beautiful experiences with friends who've been ill, have illnesses, and they will have to take a bus ride to Cape Town to go to the doctor, and the bus won't pick them up. They will go to the doctor and the doctor will say, no, I don't have time to see you today. You've got to come back in a week. So to me, those are signs. Now, instead of getting really mad, say, thank you, God, for showing me where I should not be. Show me where I should be.
Mm-hmm. God works through those synchronicities, it seems.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're going to find each other, guys. Not through knocking on doors and what you got to know that when you pray, God listens. And if you are open to hearing and receiving the answer and the gift from God, you're going to receive it and you're going to know it when it's there. But if you're running around shouting and screaming and fighting and accusing everyone of being witches and whatever, and you're thinking that now God is, you're praying and God must give you healing for your broken arm or whatever, you're not going to receive that because you're too busy fighting with everyone else. It doesn't work that way. You've got to be in an aligned state where everything around you needs to be at ease or at peace. And when you're in that state and you're praying and you're meditating, and you're saying, God, I need to know the right church or the right spiritual organization or the right doctor or the right healer, show me. And then you get up and you do your day's business and you go about your day knowing it's about to be revealed. It's there. It's just got to be revealed. It's there. I'm just waiting for it to be. It's like doing an Easter egg hunt. You know those Easter eggs in the garden. You know it's there. You know it's there. You know it's there. Oh, but where? But you know it's there. And then bam, there it is, right?
And then you have to have, when you can see it, you have to be able to see it.
You've got to be vigilant. Otherwise your sister's going to steal yours. I came from a big family. Religiously, we did the Easter egg hunt every year.
Yeah. It's funny.
Then,
I realized for a while I had been so trained to only look at the negative and only see the negative. I had this experience in Florida. It was really powerful. I had this stretch of road that I would drive down every day. And about 6 months after I lived there, I saw that at the whole wall that before I had labeled in my head as like, it's like a gloomy, gross part of town or something. You know, I had that attitude driving through there. I looked one day and I was like, it was covered with all these gorgeous flowers. And I'm asking, I'm like, where did those come from? And the answer was, Andy, they've always been there. It's just that you chose to focus on the concrete rather than the flowers. So I'm like, oh yeah, we have to remember to see it also right in front of us, all of the blessings.
Absolutely. And guys, it's so amazing. You know, what you said there is so true. It's like, what do you focus on? You know, two men sitting in a jail cell. One sees the bar, the other one sees the flowers and the trees and the mountain. So my point is that what you see changes your perception. We've been talking about the chakras and the third eye and stuff like that in some of our episodes with Bryce. How you choose to see the world is how everything in your world is going to rearrange itself. So if you choose to change your attitude around your mother or your father that you've hated for your whole life, for example, and you just can't forgive because of what they did, if you choose forgiveness there, I'm going to tell you everything else in your life is going to come to light. You're going to find the right people. You're going to find the right healers. You're going to find the right ministers or preachers or pastors, whatever. You will find it, but you're not going to find it unless you are completely at peace. Mm-hmm. I promise. And not just in one area. You can't be at peace in one area and warring in another with your friends and family and then warring with your husband and your children or whatever. I don't know. You know, I'm just saying you've got to find peace. And then that's how we're going to know how to discern what's good for us and what's not good for us. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chantelle.
Thank you, beautiful lady. I'm so excited to be talking to you again very, very soon. So God bless you and keep you so safe. And thank you for all the amazing things that you are doing and sharing and the courage it takes for you to sit on this platform and speak. I know. Thank you so, so much. And to all our viewers out there, thank you so much for watching us. We really, really appreciate each and every one of you. I'm enjoying looking at the comments as they're flashing past here. For those of you who haven't already, please give us a like and a share and a subscribe. Leave a comment. Just share. You know, this information is so important to get out there right now. Knowledge is power. And I want to say again, thank you so much. Take good care of yourselves, and we will see you very, very soon. God bless you. Cheers. Thanks, Andy.